Hi everyone, Luke here from Weekend Tour Pros. Now in 1956, Wilson first introduced Dynapower technology into their golf irons. For the next 20 years, it was the staple of the technology that they used in their irons and got them some fantastic brand reputation. Now after a gap of nearly 50 years, they've reintroduced the Dynapowr name into their golf irons with these. It's the brand new Wilson Dynapower irons. Now I'm really keen to give these a hit, see if they live up to the history and all the hype of the previous Wilson irons. So let's get down to the fitting bay and put them to the test. Okay, so got the Wilson Dynapower iron in my hand for the first time, and my first impressions are it's a good looking golf club. I really like these kind of high gloss golf clubs that you get, and the sole of this one being high gloss doesn't look potentially as chunky as it actually is. It's got these weird kind of little black sort of rubbery pockets on it. I've seen sort of a pocket on the TaylorMade irons that goes all the way along. I've not seen something with three little pockets like this in it, but yeah, it doesn't overly offend me. It maybe isn't the nicest looking thing at the bottom of the golf club, but doesn't overly offend me. Do like the kind of teardrop design to this sort of sole though, it's really cool. Do like the high gloss. In terms of down at address, you've got all the usual game improvement things that you've seen me talk about a lot on the channel now. That thick, chunky top line, lots of offset to hopefully inspire a bit of confidence. And I do try and see if you can see any of the clubs sticking out at the back of the ball. With this one, you can see a little bit, and it's only at the heel end, which for me is a little bit off-putting as I'm putting it down here, because it kind of, you can see it and then it goes away. Something I've not seen in some of the other irons that I've tested. You either see it all the way along quite consistently or you don't see it at all. But again, that's just something as an observational thing for me. In terms of the loft on this 7-iron, it is a really strong lofted 7-iron. It comes in at 27.5 degrees, which puts it right at the powerful end of these game improvement irons. So one of the things we're going to be looking for with this iron is, can we still get it in the air? Are we losing loads of spin, but are we getting some good distances? You know, how are we going to get control with this iron compared to a 7-iron, which has got a little bit more loft on it? Let's give it a hit and see how it performs. Okay, so first one out the gate there. Didn't go as high as some of the other game improvement irons that I've tested at 60 feet, but did spin at 5,034 revs, and it did carry 146. That land angle was at 48. Just blocked that one down the left-hand side. Height of 64 feet, spinning at 4,320, carry of 151, land angle at 38.3. Yeah, that's a good shot, really good shot. 62 feet of peak height, spinning at 4,900, carrying 148, land angle at 39. So I've hit a couple now with the club, and my initial views on the numbers are, I'm seeing sort of 6-iron numbers in terms of heights and land angles, but I'm seeing some really strong spins on it, and that's then bringing the carry number more in keeping with my 7-iron. So I don't know if I'm maybe not getting the best of any of the worlds here, and maybe the worst of it all, but let's see if we hit a few more. Again, that feels like another good hit, but feels like it's a very similar ball flight to the last few. 57 feet of peak height, spinning at 4,953, carry number at 147, and land angle of 36.5. Struggling to maybe time this one up as well, so that could just be me and the iron just not as suited to each other. Again, 57 feet of peak height, spinning at 5,374, carry at 140, land angle at 37.6. Pulled that one down the right, again quite low again. 50.7 feet of height, spinning at 4,838, carry 148, and land angle of 34. I'm really trying my best here to get some more heights and some more distance out of this, but just really struggling. There, I've actually struck that one as well as I can. That's as best as I can hit it, so this is what it's got. Look at that, okay, right. 62 feet of peak height, spinning at 4,300, carrying 157, landing at 37.2. That's what I was expecting to get out of this. I was expecting to get 6-iron numbers with my own set, because that's what the loft is very similar to, and that's what we've got. So that has proven it's me. This club has got it in the locker. It's just me that's struggling to time it up and connect with it. And that in itself probably means it's not the right iron for me, but it might be the right iron for you. But I have found a lot of the other irons a lot easier to hit than this one. So again, for me personally, it would not be near the top of my list for that reason. But let's see if we can get those numbers again. Again, that's as good as I can hit it. Again, a little bit of a pull down the right, but can we get 2 sets of good numbers in a row? Okay, we have, right, 63 feet of peak height, spinning at 4,073, carry at 158 again, probably because of that pull a little bit, and land angle at 37.2. Again, 6 iron numbers in my own set, but what you would expect to see out of this golf club. Probably not as good as the last two, but definitely a good strike. 58 feet of peak height, spinning at 5,500, carrying at 143 and land angle at 38. Right, let's try and just get one more good one to finish on. Just drawn that, turned it over and drawn it, but I expect the numbers to be good on that. Yeah, look at that, 61 feet of peak height, spinning at 4,123, carry 157, land angle at 36.3. Okay, so done hitting shots with the Wilson Dynapower 7-iron just there, and I think my views are, as I'm leaving the bay today, that at the top end, this club is capable of doing what I thought it was going to do, which is give me numbers very similar to 6 irons with my own set, which is slightly lower than some of the other 7 irons I hit, slightly lower spinning, but the carry number jumps up and the land angle jumps down, which is what you'd expect to see as you go through the bag. And at the top end, I was able to get that. For me personally, I've struggled to kind of time this club. I've struggled to kind of connect with it as well as I have with some of the other irons. So it's probably not going to be top of my testing list. And as a result, I think when we look into the numbers, we're going to see a real drop off when I didn't strike it very well. So maybe it's just not as forgiving if you don't strike it as some of the other game improvement irons that are out there. But that could just be me. Now, given the price point of this iron at just under £600 a set, I don't think we should write it off too soon. So let's get home, let's compare the feels I've just had to the real data and see if it changes my mind a little bit. Okay, so we've just got home, and before we deep dive into the data, I just want to caveat what you're about to see in a second. Now, in the bay, I couldn't get hold of the KBS Ultralight Max shaft. Now that's the stock shaft option that Wilson would recommend that you buy with these irons, and if you go online and try and buy them off the shelf, that's the stock shaft option that is recommended to you. Now what I did put in instead was the KBS Tour Light, which is a shaft that I absolutely love, and I've really had some strong performance using it with other game improvement irons when I've been testing them. But what that could mean is that the weighting of that shaft being a little bit heavier and the weight of the Wilson head might have meant that that was the contributing factor towards some of the timing issues that I was having, because Wilson obviously wanted you to have a lighter weight shaft with the heavier head. So it's just worth noting that caveat as we get into the detail here. Now, first of all, what you can see here on the screen is a batch of shots you've just seen me hit with the Wilson Dynapower at the top of the screen in the blue, and then underneath a batch of shots I hit shortly before I started filming with my own Titleist T200 in the red section. Now, I think the overarching conclusion I can get from this data is if you were to take the names off of them, I could be confused and think that they were the same club and the same batch of shots just being split into two. The reason for that is after the club head speed, where we see that the Wilson is a little bit slower by 0.9 mile an hour, but because it's a game improvement iron, we saw that ball speed as we would expect to be a little bit faster at 107.4 versus 105.9, and as a result we can see that smash factor was up at 1.42 versus 1.38. But after that the numbers are identical. 149.4 yards of carry versus 148.1. The spin number on the Wilson is really impressive, I must admit, for a game improvement iron. I've tested a lot of these. That is one of the highest spin numbers I've seen for a consistent batch of shots at 4744. Did spin a little bit more than my Titleist T200, but that launch angle, the land angle, the peak height, they're all virtually identical. You could look at those two numbers and you wouldn't be able to split them at all. Now, one thing I do want to just show you is towards the end of the video, you saw me hit a couple of shots with the Wilson that were actually a lot more impressive and a lot closer to the numbers I was expecting to see. And I just want to flash up a summary of those best 3 shots on here. Now, it's a much smaller data sample, so we need to take that into consideration, but I think it demonstrates what this club is capable of and what I was expecting to see from it. Whilst again we can see that the club head was a little bit slower, the club head speed, we can see that ball speed's jumped up even further still to 110.1. It's now 4.2 mile an hour faster than my own Titleist T200, and as a result the smash factor jumped up to 1.45. But this is the impressive bit. We then see the carry number jump up to 157.2, which is 9.1 yards longer than my own Titleist T200. The spin then dropped down to 4164, but again really in keeping with my own 6-iron spin versus that 4506. And then we saw that the launch angle, the heights and the land angles all stayed really consistent. And actually, because my strike was a little bit better, we actually saw the peak height go up a little bit as well, which is exactly what I would have hoped to see. So I think it's just worth noting that there is some really strong performance in these irons. They're at a fantastic price point, and don't be put off with potentially the fact that I struggled to time this up, because that could have been the shaft I was using. It could just be that these aren't the right irons for me, but they might well be the right irons for you. Now, just to move on and show you my dispersion, I always like to be honest and show you this. I think this just evidences what I was feeling in the bay, that I was struggling to time it up. You can see that I've kind of hit a few down the right hand side where I've pulled them, and then the traditional batch of shots down the left hand side. But to see that I'm pulling a 7-iron 22 yards to the right probably shows you that I was struggling to time this up a little bit. The one thing that is really impressive though is, despite those timing issues and how I was feeling in the bay, look how consistent the strike location is here. Yes, it's slightly low on the face and slightly towards the toe, but it's consistently in the same spot on the face time after time. Compare that to my own Titleist T200, which, albeit there's a smaller batch of shots, you can see that I was hitting it a little bit more all over the face. And again, I think that's credit to the Wilson that I was able to consistently find the same strike location with each of the shots that I was hitting. Okay, so we're reaching the end of the video now, and my concluding thoughts on the Wilson Dynapower irons are that whilst they're not potentially going to be top of my testing list, I definitely think there'll be a lot of golfers watching this down the lens who could get some benefit from playing these irons. We can see from those last few shots that I hit with it, there's some fantastic performance to be had with these irons, and it is exactly what I was expecting to see. It just took me a little bit longer to find it in these irons, and for that reason, that's probably why they're not top of my test list, as there's a lot of other clubs I've hit recently where I was able to pick them up and get those numbers immediately, and you've probably seen that if you've watched some of my other videos. But I must admit, they come in at an absolutely fantastic price point. We are in the middle of a cost of living crisis at the moment all around the world. And if you are someone who still wants to buy yourself a brand new set of irons, and owning a new set of clubs is important to you, then you could pick these up at a fantastic price point. They're about $579 in the UK. They're about $799 in the US. And I think that puts them at somewhere in the region of about 50 to 60% of the price of lots of the other game improvement irons that are out there on the market at the moment. So there's a potential to get equivalent performance if these are right for you, and at a fraction of the price. Now, all that remains for me to say is, if you like my video, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. It really does help other like-minded golfers like yourself to find my video, and I know as golfers we want to help each other out. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, then please do consider it. There's loads more free golf content landing soon on the channel. We've got loads more ball reviews, loads more club reviews, hopefully a few training aid reviews to come soon on the channel as well. And I'd love to have you as a follower of the Weekend Tour Pros movement. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Keep on that quest to become a Weekend Tour Pro. Goodbye.